Good morning and happy Wednesday. I'll wait for people to click on. Welcome to another episode of Coffee with the Angels. I hope you have your cup of joe this morning. Oh, look at my cup's messy. I got a messy cup here. And I got water, of course. Hello, you guys. I got water. Patty, Nicole, Susie, Jamie, hello. I hope you guys got your coffee and your water. We have an awesome guest today, Coach Nick. I was introduced to Coach Nick through the Academy. You guys know that I joined the Academy. And I didn't know Nick prior to. He is, hello Lisa, good morning. Coach Nick he's kind of a business and kind of life coach, but he helps spirituality people that's working in this field. Good morning, Mercedes. He helps people that are working in this field take sometimes you got 10 inches of snow? Holy cow, bless your heart, because that's no fun. We only got a dusting. So, sorry, I'm being distracted. So Nick takes when we're spiritual and we're living in woo-woo, Nick takes the logical part of this and mushes them together and teaches you how to build your business and really get really bring in the money. So he teaches a whole bunch of different things. He has programs and all sorts of stuff. Good morning, Courtney. Love you. So he kind of combines and helps us light workers, because sometimes we're really good and we're in the ethers and we're spaced out and we're in woo-woo, and Nick kind of brings it down and is like, okay, how do you bring the money in? How do you get to people? That's what I love about him, because he kind of combines us both. Nick, you don't have a camera. Hold on. Now you can invite yourself on now. I had to click the button. I was too busy talking. So, so he kind of helps us merge these two together. And if you guys know how I work, because I don't have a crew and it's me and I'm flowing in my kitchen, and you guys, just by you guys sharing and telling other people is kind of how I work. And he kind of gives me, he's already worked with me a little bit and giving me like, hey, you should add this to your show. You should add, you do this, blah, 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 blah. So there's lots of things. Yeah, Nick, all you gotta do at the bottom is where it says add yourself to the video, click that. He can, so he really helps tie those together and helps you do a lot of the computer stuff that I don't really know. So I was like, you know what, he should be a guest, and cool people are clicking on. I'm waiting for him to add. I haven't seen a camera button yet. So I said, you should be my guest so people can meet you and kind of hear more about what you do. I'm hoping this is gonna work. Oh no, Nick. At the very bottom, it should have a little, there's a lightning bolt and then a thing. Oh, what am I trying to say? A person and a little camera, and it says invite yourself on. It's because your camera button. That's why I'm afraid you might have to go to your phone and do this. And he's like, can you do this on a laptop? I'm like, I don't know. We'll see if it gets working. So good morning, you guys. I hope everybody's staying warm. It is very cold here in Kansas. We're in a cold snap, and I'm hoping it changes. I hope everybody's getting ready for the holidays and taking some time out to find their zen and find their middle ground. And let's see. Okay. Nope, still waiting for Nick. It has to be a tablet or a phone, that's why. So Nick, did you get that? I guess it has to be a tablet or a phone. So see if you can click on here. It's a -11. No, it's freezing here. That's beyond freezing, Nicole. Oh, thank you, Courtney. If you guys didn't get to see my Monday morning messages, that's not where I thought Spirit was going to go. And it was, oh, Nick's got a camera now. Why can't I invite you on? There you are. It was super intense. So you guys want to check that out. But we're bringing on Nick. He's going to be like, Tanya, why don't you use another profile or another platform? He's going to accept. Yay! He's like,
hey, hold on. I've never done this like this. I've never come on like this before.
So Nick, like I said, you guys, is totally computer savvy, and he knows all the things.
It looks like it, doesn't it?
And he's like, why do you just use live? I said, because it's fun. Because I get to introduce you and then, you know, show people, you know, how to do it. And he's like, whatever, there's better platforms than this one. So he can yell at me later and say, what the heck, Tanya? Nick, good morning.
Good morning. How's it going?
Good. Cold where you are?
Is it cold where I am?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been outside, but it looks like a sunny day today. It's in the room that I'm sitting in. It is warm, but I'm in Canada, so good chances are it's cold out there.
There you go. I'm gonna try to turn this because I got the sun on my face. So I got questions already. Where are you at in Canada? I've got a lot of people.
Cool. I'm in Saint John, New Brunswick, which is a little town on the east coast of Canada.
That's awesome. Yay. Well, everybody's saying hello. Good morning. Thank you for being my guest. Why don't you tell everybody what you do? I kind of gave them a little sprinkle. Why don't you jump in and tell them more about what you do?
Yeah, sure. I help coaches and healers generate sales online without using ads.
Mm-hmm. So everyone's like, okay.
That's what I do.
So I'll be like, oh, okay. So how do you, oh, sorry, I'm getting distracted by Spirit because they're already coming in and I wanted to ask so many questions. So when you ask, so it's one-on-one basis and it's an online kind of, as we're talking here, interaction, right?
Yeah, well, there's a few different ways that I help people do it, like the way that I deliver that service. So I coach people one-on-one as my main gig. I also have training programs. I've got a program called the Online Sales Development Course, which are 53 classes that I recorded that people work their way through, generally over a year, and they get support from me as well. And then I have a very specific program as well, which is how to launch your own online show. So I have an entertainment background as well, and I've been doing online shows for a long time. And I've basically taken the last, maybe 3-4 years of doing online shows and taken all my experience on how to format those shows, how to generate sales from those shows, and I put that into a program. So I've got a few different programs in the way that I deliver it, but everything that I do is based upon helping healers and coaches generate sales. And the reason that I'm passionate about that and that I feel that that's an important thing to bring to the world is because in this day and age, the way that we communicate with each other is generally through business. So my overall mission is to spiritualize business. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by spiritualizing business is that all business, whether it's a spiritual healing business or the mechanic shop, is always meant for the well-being of people. If we think of the essence of business, it was like, hey, you've got something, I've got something, let's do an exchange to enhance both our lives. So business was always a way that we brought service to others. In this modern age, business has turned into how can I dominate? How can I have, it's all about profit. It's all about how can I have more. When business in its actual spiritual form is a reflection of the law of exchange. It's no different than the bee that goes from flower to flower to flower and is exchanging or moving resources. Right. The ant that is taking a leaf and going out and bringing it back to the colony to supply for the rest of the community, that ant is engaged in business. Right. When we go out and we work or we build a business to bring some income home for our family by providing service, something beneficial for someone else, that is
Right.
business. So business these days sometimes has a bad rap, especially around the spiritual community. I'm looking to repair or heal that by saying, no, wait, business is actually business. I am a Hare Krishna or Bhakti yoga practitioner. I'm sure many people here, they're coming from all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of different spiritual practices, all kinds of different cultures, political views. See, all of those things that divide us, politics, religion, culture, sex, all of these things, at the end of the day, we all have to go to the grocery store and buy
Right.
food, right? We all have to have a home to live
Right.
in. So if we go back to the essence, is like, okay, we all have to do
Right.
business. Even if you're not a business person, when you buy, a bag of apples, you're doing business because you're engaged in the law of exchange. You're exchanging. So everybody's doing
Right.
business. So if we spiritualize business, we can, in fact, spiritualize the world. So I really focus my effort in the business side of the world because from my perspective, everybody interacts there. And I think that if we can bring spiritual consciousness back into our businesses, then we can make a big difference. And so right now I'm focused on the spiritual based entrepreneurs and make sure that they're equipped, that you guys are equipped to do business in a way that brings abundance for yourself so that you can go and do business with others in other realms of your life in that same energy. And I really believe that's going to have a nice ripple effect.
I love that. I think it's awesome. But you mentioned entertainment background. Unless you're on TLC, there's a lot of spirituality in the entertainment business. So how did you go from entertainment and what that looked like to spirituality?
Well, you know what's interesting? So basically, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 17 years old,
Mhm.
and the short of it was this: I'm a very inspired person. When I hear ideas or I see things that are new, I get very like, oh, that makes sense. Let's do it. And I'm a very let's do it kind of person,
Mhm.
right? So I started my first business when I was 17, and I opened up a ceramic store in the flea market. So I used to spend my weekends, inside of a flea market selling little ceramics at 17 years
Mhm.
old. And I was around all these people who were in their 40s and 50s and 60s running these shops. And, they're all, when you're that young and you do something like that, people pour into
Yeah.
you because they all want to be part of that, young guy coming up. And I knew that. So I totally used it. Right? I was like, oh, yeah, I'm young. Yeah, pour into me, right? And actually, there was the guy that had the booth right next to me. Um, he said something to me one day. He said, whatever you do, from a business perspective, he says, whatever you do, make residual income, create income that comes in over and over again. And he was selling subscriptions to satellite television,
Mhm.
where he would sell a subscription and he would get paid a commission over and over again. He says this is the way to create, a wealth long term. And I thought, well, that makes sense. But the only thing that I could relate to of it was music. So I grew up in an urban setting. Where I live today is not where I grew up. I grew up in a very different environment. I grew up in a very urban setting. I grew up break dancing, listening to hip hop. So I thought, oh, well, like an artist, they make a song once, it goes on radio, they get paid over and over again. He's like, that's exactly it. So always remember this little saying: ignorance on fire is better than intelligence on ice.
Nice.
Meaning, it is better that you go out there not knowing what you're
Right.
doing, but be super
Mhm.
enthusiastic and excited about it, than trying to know everything about everything and doing
Right.
nothing,
Great.
right? So I was totally ignorance on fire. Intelligence was very lacking,
Mhm.
but I was out there. So I went and I'm like, I can do this. And I tried to start off by actually, see, it's in my nature to be a coach. It's in my nature to be a teacher, because what I actually wanted to do was manage artists and help them promote themselves, because I had a natural inclination to know how to promote
Okay.
people, right? So that's actually where I started. But I couldn't find a hip hop group in my area that I was connected to that wanted to do something a little bit more mainstream. So I decided I'll do it myself.
Oh.
And so I got this little computer mic. I recruited my brother. Now you have to understand that I have zero musical talent. Okay, like I can't hold a beat. I'm not very I'm tone deaf in that way. Like,
why not?
right? Sure, I can do this. Ignorance on fire is better than intelligence on ice. I just knew. I'm like, I can do this. So I recruited my brother, who also had very little musical talent, and we got a little computer mic and this little program. We made 3 beats, 3 songs, and I walked into the biggest record labels in Toronto and was like, "Here's my demo. Who do I speak to about getting a record deal?" Like, it's pretty ballsy, right? Yeah, I walked right in. I'm like, no, no, no. Anyways, I got no replies from no one except one guy. One guy, and he only called because I called him like a million times. Like, have you listened to it? Have you listened to it? Have you listened to it? Totally. So he finally calls me back. He's like, all right, I listened to it. And then he's like, look, man, it's horrible. He's like, but you seem like you're pretty ambitious, dude. Why don't you just come down to the studio and let me just share a few things with you, like, because the way you're going about this is all wrong. Right? He's like, it's just awful. Like, it's all wrong. But, there's something about you. So anyways, myself and my brother go and we meet this guy. It's the first time we're in like this big studio and blah, blah, blah. And he's a rock label. Like he does nothing to do with hip hop. And then so I chat with him for a bit. We sit down and he's like, I don't know, man. There's just something about you that I really like. And I really think that you might be able to do something. So here's the deal. If you want, it's pay to play. I will work with you for a year and I will develop you as an artist. And at the end of the year, you will have 6 well-produced songs that you can then take to labels and shop out properly. And I'll teach you the biz. We're like, done. And I mean, I was working part-time at like Zellers. So for those of you who don't know what Zellers is, it's like the Canadian version of Walmart. Okay. I was working part-time there and I was saving all my pennies up to do this, and I was paying this guy and my brother was paying, and we did this. And at the end of the year, so for a year straight, I sat in with this guy and in my basement, learning how to breathe properly, learning how to identify tones, going to music lessons, listening to other artists and picking up on all of that. He was telling me what to listen for. He trained my ear so I can hear things. He told me, how this is how you see it. So for a year straight, I did an artist development, and at the end of the year, we had 6 songs, and both us and the guy loved it so much that he signed us for another 6 songs. This time partnering, giving us a real deal, and we produced a full record. And that record ended up getting a distribution deal with Universal Records. I ended up touring the country numerous times. I played with some of the biggest acts and such at the day. We shot a $30,000 music video, right? So all of a sudden, I went from not knowing anything to touring and being on radio and shooting music videos and getting to meet some really cool people. Now, unfortunately for me at that time, the spirituality was completely like not a thing here. In fact, I would have been so against it. But in my younger years, my really young years, like I remember in grade 3, I specifically have a memory. So I grew up in Catholic school, and they handed out the Bible to everybody. We all got a personal copy of the Bible. And I think I was the only person that read it. And I was totally down with this guy, Jesus. I was like, this guy is the man. He's around. He's like, yo, peace and love. Everybody love each other. Let's just, And I was totally into it. But I remember in grade 9, religion class, I was asking a lot of questions. And I was basically told to shut up. I don't have faith because of how many questions I'm asking. And in my heart, I thought that's crap, because actually I have tons of faith and I totally believe, but some things don't make sense to me. So I'm asking these questions not to be a pain in the butt. I'm asking these questions out of genuine wanting to know what is the truth. And even in my writing, if I go back and listen to some of my music, I realize there's this theme that has always been there throughout my life, but I only became conscious to it a few years ago, which was the theme of freedom. I was consistently in all of those things, everything that I've done, there was one thing that I was searching for, and it was freedom. And what I realized is my life is really a statement of what freedom looks like, but I had to figure that out, what that means, really. So there's three levels of freedom that I've discovered so far in my path. The first level of freedom is what I'll call material freedom. This is, maybe working for yourself, doing something that you love to do. It's to be able to have some financial freedom, some time freedom, growing a business online. That's why I teach this. The first level of freedom is to have some material freedom so that you're not stuck in the old patterns of the world. Many of, at least in my age, many of my parents and, our parents' generation, they grew up in a world where they couldn't have the freedoms that we have. Like, they worked a job, they worked for some big corporation or the government for a long time. But those days are coming to an end. Slowly, that's all being wound down. And the internet has given us this wonderful opportunity to have a way of living like never before. Like, for instance, myself and my wife, Sarah, we both run the business, right? She does the behind the scenes stuff and I'm in front. And we spend our days together because we have that kind of freedom. So that's the first level of freedom. And when I attained that level of freedom, I was happy, but there was still something missing. I realized that entrepreneurship is really an expression of freedom. So my very first business that I had success in was a commercial cleaning company. And this is where I actually hired a coach for the first time. I never really knew what coaching was, but I met a coach through this process. And I hired her, and she was very spiritual in nature. So she was a business coach, but very spiritual, right? So this is a big influence on me. And so she started training me on how to run my business and sales and all of this stuff. But at the same time, she was teaching me very deep spiritual lessons, and I was transforming inside. And I was running a commercial cleaning company, and I was happy, but not really, because I thought, well, this is great. We're making money like we've never made before, and I've got freedom like I've never been before, but I'm still miserable. And why is that? And I realized, well, I have no passion. I have no calling to be doing commercial cleaning. Like, I'm not getting up every morning going, I wonder whose carpet I get to clean today. I want, what kind of chemicals do we get to spray on the carpets today? Like, I didn't care about any of the actual work. So I realized that there's this other, that isn't it. So I sold my half of the cleaning company and I started training and coaching and sort of went back to my nature of teaching. And here I found a different level of joy and happiness because the second level of freedom was revealed to me, which is freedom of expression. So in the Vedic, so as a Hare Krishna, we study the Vedas, right? The Vedic knowledge, our main book being Bhagavad Gita. There's something called the Varnashram system, meaning that every human being has a tendency. In today's world, we see that as personality tests, or we see that as, all of these type of things. Well, this all comes from this idea that actually everybody has a certain dharma or nature. So everybody has some certain way of being in the world. And if they find that way, then that will bring them some natural joy and happiness, and they'll be very good at it. So I realized that I'm naturally a good teacher, but I had to hone those skills, but that's my nature. So therefore, I started to coach and train, which also brought me a level of happiness, but still not like total freedom. I still felt a bit trapped, even by my own coaching business. I thought, what is going on here? So I started asking the deeper questions of life. Well, who am I? What am I? And at this time, I was very addicted to smoking marijuana. I would smoke marijuana for about good 10, 15 years of my life, like daily, every day, get up in the morning, take a hit out the bong, then start the day kind of smoker, right? So what I did, I realized that this type of lifestyle cannot continue if I was to actually reach higher potentials of who I am. So I did the whole pack up everything, threw away everything, all the lighters, everything, all this type of stuff, and I decided to quit. And, I felt good, but the next day I felt like crap. And I didn't realize what was happening to me, but I was having withdrawals. I've been smoking nonstop for like 10 years. And then one day I just decided to quit, like try to do it cold turkey. And it was so tough. And I was already at this point studying Buddhism and shamanism, and I was really intrigued with spiritual life. Reading things like The Secret and all this stuff, just exploring what was out there. And I ended up going and seeing a shaman, a native Canadian shaman, right? So someone from the indigenous type of healing. And through this healing session, I had a tremendous healing. And that night, I literally left in the morning as one person and I came home as somebody else. And for the next few days, I was so in tune with the energies of the world that everything seemed like one. I would wake up so early in the morning as the sun was rising, and I can literally see the wave lines from energy. And I could see, like, I could feel everything around me, like there was no separation. And that totally, I've never been the same ever since. And I ended up over the next few years kind of weaving in and out of that experience where I was able to like live very like clean, not use drugs, not turn to anything. But then I would kind of waver back and then waver. And that's when I really asked God, I said, I need something that is going to help me sustain this and help me live it. And that's when actually I found the Hare Krishna path. That became my path. And I ended up meeting my Guru Maharaj, Bhaktimarga Swami. I just became an initiated member. That's why, like, you'll see all my stuff says Coach Nick, but then there's another name always in brackets that says Nakula Das. Mm-hmm. Nakula Das is my spiritual name given to me by Bhaktimarga Swami. And I've dedicated myself to this path of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti means devotion and yoga means union. So it's the yoga of the heart. It's the yoga of service. How do you be of service to God and the world? And the way I've combined that, my spiritual path and my overall mission is saying, well, great, I'm good at business and I'm on this spiritual journey and I'm learning all this tremendous spiritual knowledge. So I've married the two. And this is where I've discovered the third level of freedom, which is spiritual freedom. I am not the body. And I am not the mind. I am spirit soul. I am eternal. I never die, and therefore I was never born. What I do in the world is not who I am in the world. And this allowed me freedom from my own business. So this is the deepest level of freedom that I've been able to attain so far in my path, which is I express myself in this world, and my service to the world is helping coaches and healers generate sales. And my mission is to bring people to the spiritual path through different means. Business means, but locally I run something called the St. John Krishna Center, myself and my wife founded, where we're building the first Krishna temple here. This is something that we're doing all non-for-profit. I have my business, which is the Freedompreneurs Club and the Akashic Academy, where we're bringing spiritual knowledge on the online platform. And the whole idea, though, is all of that stuff that I do is still not who I am. And when you know that what you do and who you are different, then there's a level of freedom where you become a little bit unattached to everything in the world. You realize that the world, the material world, is quite an illusory energy. It is easily created and easily destroyed. It is always changing and fluctuating. So there's no point of getting attached to any of it because it will all change and fluctuate. But you can enjoy the process and use it to develop your consciousness, which is really what this human journey is all about. And the human form of life is so precious. It is so precious. If you were born into the human form of life, you are in the form of life that is the bridge between the material world and the spiritual world. And if you use the human form of life to cultivate your inner world or your consciousness, then to me, that's a successful life. If you use your human form of life to only satisfy the material parts of life, then there's no different than animal life. Then there's no difference between you, the cat, the dog, or the bird. Because they do all the activities we do, mainly 4 activities: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. These are the 4 activities of material life. Human beings also do these activities. We just do them in more sophisticated ways. So we think we're advanced because maybe the animal has to hunt their food and we go down to Whole Foods, right? You know, so we think, oh, we must be more advanced. Well, no, we're just more sophisticated in the same activity. But human beings can also take part in activities like the human form of life. You can create, you can be of service, you can reinvent yourself, you can know what is God, you can connect with higher realms and beings. You can do all this in the human form of life. And that to me is the real goal of life. And that doesn't matter your position, your status, your bank account, your sexual orientation, your religion. None of that actually matters because that's all material. Inner cultivation is what we call spiritual, and that doesn't have a religion. That has just an essence to it. And to me, business is just a way, another way, if done in the right consciousness, of cultivating that essence.
I think that's awesome. So I gotta ask you, because I'm listening to your story and I didn't hear it from the beginning. He's like, oh God, what is she gonna ask? So Spirit keeps chiming in, and I'm like, your whole life, Spirit has been pushing you to strive more. No matter what it looked like, no matter what situation, you have this burning sensation in your inner solar plex to keep pushing for more. Have you had that, or do you still feel that burning sensation?
Oh no, I still feel that burning sensation, but differently.
Mm-hmm.
It's different. It's to the burning sensation.
Or the
You know,
you
is
keep saying, do you think you found all your pieces, or do you think there's looking?
no, no. I think there's still more. Obviously, I think there's always more. I think a God is like a shoreless
Mm-hmm.
ocean, right? Meaning, like you could keep swimming forever and still not find, all that there is to find. I think that what's different is how I direct it.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to direct it in a way that was all
Instead of, yeah.
outwardly, and now I direct it inwardly. Who am I really? And so I think that's all that I think that desire, I think no matter what you endeavor in life, you have to have a
Mm-hmm.
determination, whether it's, I want to, get in the best shape of my life, become wealthy, whatever your goals are in life. And even if it's like, I want to attain the highest spiritual knowledge possible or experience possible, you're going to need determination to do that. And so I think that my determination is just focused differently now.
That's awesome. So somebody asked, like, I want spiritual or I want freedom. A lot of people mention that. So if there's somebody who's like, I want to, I want to hire you as a coach, but I don't know my gifts. I don't know my skills. Like, can you guide people to find what their truly heart's desire and lead them to what's best for them?
Yeah, I can. And sometimes that means me referring you to somebody else. Right? Like so sometimes, like for instance, when it comes to like for people going, I don't really know what I'm meant to do yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um I generally I can probably see within you certain things that just like everybody can see. It's easier when someone else is looking at you to see things that you can't see, right? We all have blind spots. So in that way, I can act like that. But if you're in a place where you still don't know what it is that you want to do, right? I could probably help you by directing you to somebody like Tanya, for instance. Right? You're probably better equipped to actually helping people discover what it is that they want to do. I'm really good at when you know what you want to do, but now you don't know how to bring it to the
Okay.
world. Or you're like, oh, okay, I get what I'm supposed to be doing, Nick, but how do I actually make people understand? My skill lives very much in my ability to communicate. So I can give you words and language and communication that really helps get your message out to people in an easy way for them to receive.
Awesome. So if people are like, okay, because you got this, and we haven't even talked about his 90-day program. He's got an awesome 90-day acceleration program. What if people are like, hey, do you take payments? Like, because I heard somebody ask, do you have a payment plan if somebody wants to sign up?
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah. As far as like payments, I have a few different levels as far as working with
Okay.
me. Generally, we can make something work. I'm really committed that people, unlike maybe your usual business coach, I'm committed to the spiritual process, and therefore I'm committed to service. So I'm really committed that, if somebody wants this information and this help, that you can get it. So I've developed within my model a few different ways to be able to do that depending on budgets and needs. So yes, there's all kinds of different payment plans and options for you to take part in the information. The real key is to have the desire and trust, Our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, would say, do not be miserly. If you're miserly, you're actually in lack of faith. Krishna is what we call God. We know God through Krishna. And you say Krishna is all wealthy. So why do we have to be miserly? I have a cold I'm getting
No,
over.
you're good. And I do want to talk to people who may not know that. And yes, Jessica, it's funny because we always talk about trust. In your culture, isn't Krishna like you said Jesus to Christians, right? Isn't that what you said? You're dying.
Well, I'm like,
because I call them all masters. I've seen them all. They all have a connection. So
no doubt that they all have a connection. For us, Krishna is God,
okay.
right? Krishna is an avatar, so God comes in many forms. So sometimes God comes as himself.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes God comes as like Ram, which is himself, but with a few less of his potencies. Sometimes God comes as the Son of God to show us things. Sometimes God comes as to give the message of compassion, like the Lord Buddha. Lord Buddha is considered an avatar. So actually, I'll show you that God comes many times in many different ways. So Krishna, the word Krishna literally, well, the literal translation means blackish, and the word Christ means blackish olive. So Christ and Krishna are very much, connected because he's the Son of God. But Krishna also came as the Buddha, or God came as the Buddha. Krishna also means all attractive. So the word Krishna encompasses all. That's why it's such an important vibration, Krishna, right? And it says that God has 6 main opulences or potencies: all wealthy, all famous, all knowledgeable, all beautiful, all powerful, and all renounced. See, you could see in the material world, we're attracted to those things. We're attracted to celebrities, they have fame. We're attracted to people with money, they have money. We are attracted to power. People, some people live for power, always trying to dominate others. That's how they interpret power. Some people are renounced, I'm going to go live in the Himalayas and you won't see me again, right? This type of thing. Some people are very attracted to beauty. We see much of the world is very attracted to beauty and beautiful things and beautiful people. The reason we're attracted to those things is that because they are the qualities of God. So actually, we're all attracted and searching for God's source. That's what we're all searching for.
Yeah, and that's Spirit interrupted me, and God comes in all forms, and God.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. So what it means to be Krishna conscious or Christ conscious, it's the same consciousness, right? Or God conscious or universal conscious, if all those words scare you, right? Is that you are living in a way where you see the source in everything. And therefore, when you see the source in everything, you realize I am also part and parcel of that source.
I can hear people laughing because I say this all the time in my videos, so go ahead.
Yeah, and I am part of that, and so therefore my job actually is to be in service of the whole, because I am part of the whole. That's why whatever you give you receive. Srila Prabhupada would say, if you want to be beautiful, then dress the deity of Krishna. Be like, give beauty to God and you will appear as beautiful. If you want to be wealthy, then give your wealth to God and God will make you wealthy. In the Bible, it says, draw an eye onto God and God will draw an eye onto you. It's the same teaching. It's basically whatever you give, God will reciprocate. So the word Krishna for Krishna devotees means all attractive. We are attracted to the thing that is attractive, which is the source. Because all potency and power, whether it's natural power or supernatural power, it's all natural power because it all comes from one place. And once you see that everything just comes from one place and then everything is ultimately connected to one source, what is the use of fighting? What is the use of being miserly? What is all of these attachments and all this stuff goes away because you're like, oh, but this is foolish. Yeah. So I was just going to show you this this picture here. This is so that's a picture of Krishna, but you could see that's a picture of Lord Buddha, and there are all many different avatars there where Krishna has come. So he comes as different incarnations, a boar, a fish, a warrior. Krishna is known as a great lover, a great warrior, a great business person, everything, because the source is everything. So the whole idea is that you just recognize that anything that you have came from somewhere. And when it's taken away, it's being used for a different purpose. Nothing is truly yours. That's actually the real meaning of renunciation. Renunciation doesn't mean you disappear from society. It means that you just understand that everything in the material is temporary. So use it for the service of that which is permanent. That's in the spiritual language when like at least in our tradition, when we say truth, we could just simply say that which is permanent.
Sorry, I'm getting distracted because I think this is beautiful because so many people categorize religions and a certain entity with this and say this is the only path when they're all the path, and the path is love. And they're all coming. It doesn't matter what form. It doesn't matter. It comes with people, and that's why I've said this so many times. Your path is love and light, and as you are connected to Source, and you realize this divine connection with Source, with God. I use God because that's what I use, because it resonates with my soul, and that everything around, if the lights were to go out and we could feel each other's energy, it doesn't matter what we look like or who we are. Because if you can feel my love in the dark, then I've accomplished it. And it's the same thing with, masters that come down. It's the same. We're all connected. So I love this because it kind of just blows the whole mindset of understanding that there's different paths, but it all leads to the same beautiful source.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's a nice example by a Hare Krishna, a monk, where he wrote a nice book called Frequently Unanswered Questions. Yeah. And one of them was, why different religions, right? Why are there so many different practices or religions? And he actually says that God appears to people in the way that they want to see God too. So sometimes people want to see God as the judge and juror. They want to see that aspect of God. So he shows up in certain religions or churches like a judge and juror, because there is an aspect of that. Some people want to see God as impersonal, just, sort of the void. So like, for instance, Buddhist philosophy would really satisfy a very impersonal way of looking at God. Some people want to see God personally. They want to have a personal relationship. That's why we devote to Krishna, to have a personal relationship with God. So different, but think of think of religion as schools or universities, right? So imagine like you've got Harvard University and Yale, and you've got this one and that one. And all those universities maybe have a doctorate program where someone could go through and become a doctor. When you graduate from the university, The doctors are all
Right.
doctors. It didn't matter that this doctor was a doctor that came from this university and that doctor. They can work in the same hospital and they can cure people. Similarly, the graduates, the high practitioners of any spiritual practice that's bona fide, that's like a real spiritual practice designed to teach you love of God, the high level practitioners, they can all work together to heal the world. It's normally the practitioner who doesn't dive deep enough into their own practice that ends up fighting over the material aspects of it.
It's funny.
And they end up separating. But you look at the people at the top. So how you should judge a particular practice is by looking not at the general masses of the practice, but of the high level practitioners of that practice.
I love that. And Spirit said, when you said God, I have angels and spirits here, and they said, because you said it, and whoever said that is, that's how they're looking at God, is also because that's how they look at themselves.
Yeah, it's for reflection, right?
We're take that a step deeper, is that's how they relate to themselves. So that's where they.
Well, sure, God is within you. Right. So how you relate to God and how you relate. That's why if you actually have bhakti means selfless love, right? The highest form of bhakti is selfless love. When you ever attain that, then that will also be, not only is that extended to your own self, it's just extended. It's selfless, right? So there is no you to, like, it's just there. It's and it extends to yourself and everybody else.
And I think, sorry, Spirit keeps interrupting me, because I think when they set up, when they come in, they, with a certain family that believes in organized religion, and they open up spirituality and they heal these wounds that have been, keep going like this, put upon them, and then realize that God, universe, source is such a divine beauty. And when you have a healing session like you did with your shaman healing, and it opens up this part, and then you realize the depth of love and beauty that is not only within us, all around us, the healing and the transformation in your life begins. But a lot of people are afraid to take that step. So I don't know, but Spirit just keeps going, like, you have this image, and I've said this so many times, pushing outside your box. And when you push outside your box and sit into the depths of your soul and within yourself, you realize that every book you've read about law of attraction, about everything else, is all within you, and you can reach anything. And the vibration that you radiate into the world is your reflection, and is what you get back is just beautiful. Sorry, they keep coming in with all these, and I'm like, I know, it's awesome. So I push, like, it doesn't matter, what religion, the basis is love.
Yeah, religion is a material. It's all to do with the body, right? Like, I'm Hindu, I'm Christian, and that's all bodily identification. Because if you were born in the other side of the planet, you would believe and identify with something else. You could see it's impermanent. The soul is not any of that. The soul is just that, is a being. It's there, it's alive, it's just life. It's pure life itself, without any story about what it is. As soon as you put a story about, like, I am this and I am that, and that means you must be this and you must be that, then you're living in this dualistic nature of me versus you, and that's called material life. Because as soon as you do that, now you have to defend yourself, and you have to, right? Now you're all of a sudden into the animal existence of dualities, right? Where when you live from the realization, I'm spirit soul, that's it, done, period, then there's also, all your limitations disappear, because all your limitations also come with the body. The body is full of limitations. So if you're experiencing limitation in your life, and we are all somewhat limited to this body because we're in it right now, right? But when your consciousness realizes that it is bigger than this body, then in the next life, you'll attain a body that is equivalent to your consciousness. So your consciousness gives you the body that you have. That's what we call karma. Karma means action or work, meaning the work you have or the karma that you've developed in this life is based upon the consciousness at which when you passed in your last life. Now you've started in this life with this body, with this family, with this religion, with whatever you got on the go, right? And then your job is to realize, okay, and to sort of rectify that karma. But how you rectify that karma is not necessarily by like having to do anything, it's by evolving. And as you evolve, your karma, which may be a mountain of karma you have to go through, the more you evolve and reach higher levels of consciousness, your karma gets reduced to a molehill. And, you know, Mahatma Gandhi had a great saying that says, simple living, high thinking. And our spiritual master adopted it. And I've adopted it even with the Freedompreneur's lifestyle to being like, what's Freedompreneur's life all about? It's about simple living, high thinking. It's about being able to simplify your life where you have freedom materially, you can express yourself freely, and you have the time to actually contemplate, to discover who you are truly, to reach, you know, those ultimate stages of freedom.
And he's talking, you guys, about his program, Full Circle. This is why I feel Coach Nick is different than normal coaches, just because if you're in this spiritual path and you're understanding that you are so much more than this physical body, he also understands that. And it's easy to work with somebody who you're on the same wavelength. So so that's what his program is. You guys, his website, we could go on and on because Spirit has like a billion questions, but we've already been on here an hour, and I know you have days, and you've got clients to get to. But that's where, if you guys are like, yes, I do need help with my spiritual path on how to bring the monetary and kind of make they keep going my lifestyle comfortable and reasonable, because he's helped me so much with all my tech stuff that I'm like, I need help with. So he can help you with that because he's been there, done that, and I have not. So you guys check out his website. It's also posted, and he'll post it afterwards in the video. Thank you guys so much for sharing. And thank you for this in-depth conversation. I know it's probably not exactly where we thought it was going to go, but I think it was important. And
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you creating the space for it.
Always. So you guys have an awesome Wednesday, and catch me on the Academy tomorrow. And if you guys want to hit up Coach Nick, check out his website. Thank you, and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.